I'm Draco Self Important, and I think you should listen to me. Today, you're going to listen to me talk about feminism and dating. Fun times. Um, Someone asked me the other day if I thought that the idea of always going Dutch, so, splitting the bill on a date, was a feminist idea. And also if I thought feminism was ruining dating. Um, and I'm gonna have to say no to both. So, my initial thought with the whole going Dutch thing was like, well, I mean, the feminist idea would be like to have a conversation, maybe even as far as like whoever has more resources. But really, it's like, I don't know who invited who, but upon further reflection, feminism as a concept is about basic human rights, right? It's about, everyone getting equal treatment under the law in a lot of cases. Yeah, so feminism doesn't give a shit who pays on your date, right? Feminism cares about whether or not you both have the same access to a bank account to hold your money to pay for the date. That's where feminism comes in, right? So, are there like crazy rad femmes out there that take shit way too fucking far? Yeah. And I'll go more into that later. But for the most part, especially if we're talking about modern day feminism, it's just like treating everyone as equals. And if you're in a community that thinks that women can only do XYZ or are like required to hold certain societal roles or whatever, you're not gonna jibe with people who think that everyone should have equal rights. Um, but like a lot of what is represented as feminism has absolutely nothing to do with feminism. Feminism is about being able to live your life free of harassment, like for shit that isn't, within your fucking control, man. Like, you shouldn't be harassed on the street just for being who you are. If you're identifiably female, or if you're identifiably any particular religion or whatever, like, it's not acceptable in society, in a, polite society, as if we lived in one of those, um, to, like, harass people on the street just because of how they look. And the fact that you're, complimenting someone, depending on how you're going about that, like, some shit's intrusive, man. Like, dude. I think that feminism is associated with the idea of women working. Um, and although that association is not like incorrect, the way that that association is interpreted and explained is women didn't like really want to go out into the workforce. And I mean, like, the women, there were plenty of women who ended up working, and there are plenty of women who are working now that, if they could afford it, would not be, because they would be at home with their fucking kids, or, kept at home like a pet or whatever. Um, like, it's not as if feminism requires a woman to have a job. Feminism is about the choice, right? And it's also the thing that feminism is associated with when it comes to women working is pay, because women still don't make as much as men for the same job, right? Like, the percentage, the to the dollar is higher now. I think it's in like the 80s, whereas before it was like fucking 49% or some shit. Like it was insanely low. Um, that women were being underpaid for the same work, let alone not being allowed into any number of professions for how many hundreds slash thousands of years, depending on, if we're talking about American and Western European culture. Yeah, that women were not allowed to have any range of jobs that now it's like, well, obviously women can do that. Like, think of a time when women weren't allowed to teach. And now they're basically the only people we can get to fucking do it. So, it's not about this like demand that all women go in the opposite direction of what is traditional, or because like I think in a good society there would be a variety of different people living a variety of different kinds of lives, because then they have different availability to do different shit, because the married couple that's both working that doesn't have kids has extra time and income that they can be contributing to society, to their extended family, to whatever, versus all of these fucking right wingers are all kinds of concerned about the birth rate. If we were actually like fostering a way for people to live comfortably, we wouldn't have to worry about the birth rate. Young people especially are choosing not to have children because it's too fucking expensive and they can barely afford to live themselves, right? That's why they want to eliminate all fucking abortion, and then they're going to go after birth control. Like, if they get a solid federal abortion ban, the birth control is coming next. And if you think it's not, you're a fucking fool. Just like if they, manage to eradicate trans people, they're coming after the gays next. There is a very clear hierarchy to how this shit goes, and and you know what the hierarchy is. Who got those rights most recently, as compared to whatever other group we can pit against each other, right? So white women have got a real long time before this shit becomes their problem, as it were, except for the fact that they are women. So that's the only thing left to, to oppress them on. And they were the last group of, or the first group of women to get any kind of rights in each step of the way. And, it's only been very recently that any kind of legislation or whatever would relate to all women. In most of America's history, that was just white women. Early feminism arguably started in like 1798 or something, but it was the entirety of the 1800s and into the beginning of the 1900s was first wave feminism. And that was all about women's rights to vote. And I mean, there were people getting arrested, people going on hunger strikes, doing vandalism and shit. Like, it was an all out rebellion and riot. And then there was a little bit of calm until you got into the 60s era. I think actually started in the 50s. Shit, dude, was it as far back? I'm thinking like Rosie the Riveter shit and like that era. So what, like 40s? Was that 40s? I am not the best at dates. I remember the order that things happened in, and like the shit that I'm interested in and the shit that I learn is like the cultural context, because the whole reason that they teach history is so that we can look at history and go, oh, that didn't work out so well. Maybe we shouldn't do exactly that same thing again. But what's happening is they're just using this same fucking playbook on different cohorts of people because they want to make sure that we're fighting all the time, even in our own homes. They don't want anyone to be comfortable. Because if you have time to sit around and think about shit, you might think about shit like why 6% of this country has more than half the wealth. You might think about that. And like, why is that possible? How does that happen? Why are we okay with that? Why are we okay with insurance companies making double digit billions of dollars of profit? Not revenue, profit. All just yum yum, new money now. No expenses here. We can do whatever we want with this. Let's give it to all the high ranking executives. Yay! They can make that while the average American has medical debt. There's more medical debt than like, but that's just cool. That there are there's a very small group of people in charge, and if you are watching this, you are not in it. Neither am I. And the faster we realize that we are all in the same boat, they are using virtually the same, tactics against each and every group. They're just switching out the adjectives, man. It's all about not maintaining societal norms, even as if these norms have been static. Like, there's absolutely nothing that we do today that 100 years ago was what we were doing. You know what I mean? Like, there, so many things have changed, and it's just ridiculous to try to go backwards out of like being weirded out, because that's the thing that's weaponized is, oh, different, scary, and it's just playing on people's insecurities and shit, you know. But like, there's this idea that is still somehow this American dream of you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, when you're like 20, and like that's just like that's your life, and then everything's great, and like not everyone has to live that life. That life is not going to work for everyone. I, as someone who got married young more than once because I'm a big old dum dum, I don't think that getting married before you're 25 at a minimum, and I would say probably 30, is your best of moves. I understand that as far as fertility goes, that's pushing it a bit, but like, if you want to have like a healthy relationship and like, not fuck up your kids, making sure that you have healed any of your trauma and also have a fully developed frontal lobe seems like it might be a good idea. I think that as society has progressed, we have established older and older ages that it becomes appropriate to do these long term things, because, it used to be totally chill to get married at 12. And now we're like, sweet Jesus, that's a horrible idea. And I think the more of us who went through the getting married at 20, who come out and go, that was dumb, and so was that time I got married at 23. Um, there is someone very loud outside my door. My goodness. Um, at any rate, the time I got married at 23, also horrible fucking idea. Um, that notwithstanding, um, you know, I think we as a culture are beginning to shift in the way that we look at like age differences and things, and the way that, like if someone is 40 and they're dating an 18-year-old, we all squint a little bit. Not everyone, but, most normal people. Um, so, yeah. I'm sorry, the people outside threw off my mojo. My mojo is easily thrown off these days. Um, but that's neither here nor there. But no, you're sold this dream of like the housewife, kids, whatever. Like it's going to be handed to you, rather than relationships being something that are work. It's emotional labor, right? Like and the first few relationships you do don't usually go very well because you don't know what you're doing. And if you get into a relationship with someone who does know what they're doing and does have the experience, and then you go in and you don't, they can like manipulate all of that because they know exactly what you're going through because they've done it before, and they know better now, but you don't know better now. And the chances that they're going to tell you when they see you, falling into the same pitfalls, versus them just letting you do it and being your savior. And you know what I mean? This is as someone who has been, you know, I have been in not a like partnership romantic relationship, but like semi long term bang buddy situation, with a dude who's literally old enough to be my dad. Like I'm in between his kids in age. And it was a positive experience because he never once lied to me. He never once misrepresented anything. We were both very like, hey, we're just, I was 21, 22 at the time. So like I was still young, um, but I was not like a fetus. Um, so I could go to a bar. All right, like that's but because he was always open and honest, and like it's Dan Savage's campsite rule. You leave the person in better condition than you found them. That's the goal, right? Um, but like most people who, especially those who are seeking out younger partners with like a drastic age difference, are seeking them out in an effort to find someone that they can control, basically, so that they can control the situation, because when they feel in control of the situation, they feel more in control of their lives. It makes them feel more secure, because ultimately they're very insecure people. Controlling people are insecure people. If someone is not willing to let you go out and be yourself and do your thing and trust that you're going to come home and you're going to, then meh. Um, but yeah, I got off on a whole tangent on this age thing because, oh god, I don't remember what the hell. Oh, I caught a cinnamon toast Ken, who like the videos pop up in my feed occasionally, and I'm like, oh, all right. But it was him watching one of the many gypsy shows, which I have weird mixed feelings about. Um, but it was this one where the mom was trying to get her 10-year-old daughter married off, like to have at her 10th birthday party, dudes showing up to like potentially court her. And this little girl's dad was like, no, she's not a piece of meat. She's a 10-year-old child, you fucking psycho. Apparently, it was because the dude was not Romani. Roman, is that how you? I am bad at pronouncing things. Um, I hate to say gypsy. They call themselves gypsies in this context, but it still makes me feel icky because no one in my real life that I have ever known would have appreciated being called that. So I'm like, I don't like it. Um, you know, but the dude was not from the culture, and she was trying to like get back in the good graces of her estranged family, who were pissed off that she married the gorger, as it were. uh, and it's like, dude, but there would have been a time that the pervading or prevailing culture in America would have been that it was perfectly acceptable to like marry off your 10-year-old if you got like the right offer or whatever. Those times where you had so many kids that if one died, you would name another one after that kid, so you just get a replacement Jimmy. Yeah, that was a thing. Welcome to homesteading, I guess. I love all those people who want to go back to living on the land, and I'm like, do you know how frequently those children fucking died? Are you prepared to be a broodmare? Because if you're planning to actually repopulate with this fucking scenario, you're gonna have a lot of kids, and you're gonna have to bury a lot of those. So, good luck. Like, that's not how any of this works. What the fuck do you think is going to happen if society collapses? There won't be fucking medicine, bro. All of those diseases are going to come back with a vengeance. And all these dumb motherfuckers who won't let us get vaccines for shit or try to make that a big fucking deal. Like, yeah, that's not going to help. Dude. Yeah. You get sold a bill of goods. Women also get sold a bill of goods that there is some fucking man out there that is gonna Prince Charming his ass into her life. And it's like, here's the thing about that. Um, Bros who want the wife and the house and the whatnot, can you provide for that? Uh, what's your living situation like now? Do you own a house? Because if you don't already own a fucking house, then I don't understand why you have this weird expectation of someone who wants this thing that you are not even prepared to provide. If you're living in your mom's basement, then why are we talking about trad wife shit? What are you giving to this poor woman that you expect to stay with you in your mom's basement? Mom's gonna make us some pizza rolls. You should watch how she does it. You didn't do it right. Yeah, nobody needs any of this. But the fucking we are now into the fourth wave of feminism, right? First wave of feminism is entirely white and is women's suffrage. Second wave of feminism is like 60s through the 80s, and is your, bra burning hippie fucking. But this is when you get things like women being able to have a checking account, for example. This is when divorce becomes legal in most cases where it was not. Um, no fault divorce as a concept, it becomes, pretty pervasive. And these are things that people still will go out onto the internet today and be like, women shouldn't vote. Women will, with their mouths, be like, um, because, it doesn't matter what kind of person you are capable of holding stupid ideas. The idea that any group of people shouldn't vote is just the worst. There's no way to police that without discrimination. There's no way that you're not going to be eliminating people that you would otherwise want to participate in the system. You have to just let everybody participate and put in enough safeguards that, we don't all die about it. But that we're just all, yeah. So then, third wave feminism was like 90s feminism and your girl power and your, more acceptance, not a totality of acceptance, but more acceptance around like sex work and, porn specifically, like the destigmatization of working in porn to a degree. I mean, there's still misogyny through all of this. Feminism is not something that was actually, but like these were the things that were fought for. This is when you ended up with like legal brothels in Nevada, for example. Um, but then we get to like 2012, we get into the Me Too movement and the acknowledgement of rape culture. More focus. This is when we start to get into the focus on age differences. This is where, as at the tail end of actually the second wave of feminism, so like into the 80s, you started to see a little bit more about intersectionality, right? So it started to be less white at the tail end of the second wave. Um, Not to say that white women were not included, but it was no longer exclusively white, right? There was the idea of understanding that women who were not white had other issues in addition to all of the issues that the fucking white women had, and that those things need to be taken into consideration, and perhaps the way that we fight for their particular rights might need to be different. The strategy may be different, you know, because like depending on your circumstances, a walkout can be a risky fucking thing, you know. Um, so it wasn't really until the fourth wave of feminism that true intersectionality started to be really talked about. And so like we are at this point, you know, by the time you were watching this, I'm sure it's 2025 because I am in the last couple hours of 2024 where I'm at. Um and this is the life of the single dad, as it were. I got a kid sleeping in there, so I am home for New Year's. Woo! Uh, uh, is all right, but true intersectionality involves everyone because it acknowledges that if you want to be acknowledged for your issues, you have to see you, the similarities in what's going on around you with other people, right? Because you have to have empathy in order to like get empathy, really. Like, yeah, sometimes people will just empathize with anyone, you know, whatever. But, like, in general, it's a lot easier to get people to empathize with you if you are a caring and empathetic individual. Empathetic, not an empath. That's some bullshit. Stop it. The fact that you can pick up on social cues doesn't make you a fucking magician. Calm the fuck down. Uh, Sorry, I just have never in my life met someone who called themselves an empath, like seriously, that didn't traumatize me, like literally. Like the first person that comes to mind literally rubbed her ass on me after I told her I was uncomfortable with her touching me. So, yeah. Uh, yeah, it was a whole thing. Like there was more to it than that, but that's the short fucking story of that fucking psycho. Oh my god. But anyway, um, you know, this is the thing. Like men's rights, for example. If we're talking about things like men's rights in family court, I think that there's a huge argument for the system being stacked against men in a lot of ways now. The kind of irony of that is it used to be stacked against women in you know a lot of those same ways, but it's only stacked up against men without money, because if you are a man with money and a woman without, one of you is going to be able to afford a lawyer, the other is not. Either that or the quality of or reputation of said lawyers, if you manage to. But in most cases, this is a situation where, like, people from different economic classes marry. When they divorce, he's still got whatever the fuck money he had. She has been just staying home taking care of the kids the whole time. She ain't got shit. And so when you go to court, there isn't any kind of, you know, spousal support, child support, whatever established. So you're starting from, he's got a fucking lawyer, she's got fucking nothing. And in those cases, the person with the money is usually the person who ends up getting what they want, because they have someone who can argue for it in a way that makes sense with the law, versus you on your own trying to be like, I don't fucking know. So, you know, but in cases where we're talking about dudes who are not particularly well off, who also cannot afford a goddamn lawyer, they are bent over backwards and asked for like insane amounts of money compared to the amount of money that they bring home. It's and it's like, I get that the kids got to eat, but like you also have to be able to run your own household to be able to have the children there at any point if you want to actually be involved in the child's life. Like, you, when you're divorced, you have to have two fucking rooms for the kid, right? Because there has to be a room in each house, so someone has to pay for that. So to expect, the just because it's the man, that he should be able to maintain his entire household and someone else's entire goddamn household, like, it's insane the amount of money, like, because it's if you have a greater income, you can afford to pay a greater percentage. And if we start doing these weird percentage things, and when we get down into lower income brackets, it becomes ridiculous, because there's this idea that you should make X amount more than your rent or whatever, but that's not what happens for most people. Most people are paying damn near half of what they bring in on just housing before you get to anything else. So it's the system is fucked. The system is fucking all of us, right? Now, as far as feminism goes, feminism has had its dark spots. The rad femmes are making a comeback, and they're not fucking cute. This is where you get the feminazi stereotype. These are the man hating feminists, right? This is the stereotype that has become pervasive for the whole movement, despite the fact that the vast majority of the movement throughout time has been like, y'all need to calm the fuck down. And, or in the case of TERFs, just loudly screaming in their faces about how fucking stupid they are. Um, Radical feminists have always been anti-trans, right? Um, the I was Someone sent me a link for the Scum Manifesto, which was written in like '79. I don't necessarily recommend that you read it, because it's one of those things that, like, it's got reasonable ideas peppered throughout, so that you get this like false equivalency situation where it seems like, oh, well, this person, agrees with me on these things, so this that is a bridge too fucking far must also make sense. It's literally got eugenics in it, and i don't I don't know why that I have to keep saying this, but eugenics is bad, and we shouldn't do that. um yeah, I don't like this idea that, because the fucking manifesto literally described men as being, as the Y chromosome being an incomplete X chromosome, and that all men secretly wanted to be women, and that's why they oppress women, and that's why they have to attach themselves to women for all of their emotional needs, and they're all just trying to be their mommy. Yeah, this is why the TERFs are TERFs, is because they think that all men want to be women, and that some of them are just giving it a go, and that's like wrong and an invasion of women's spaces and blah blah blah, instead of some of those people just being women and them not understanding science. Yeah, there's the whole split with the atheist community over the that dude writing an anti-trans article, and everybody going, "Hi, we're an entire ass organization based on believing collective scientific consensus, peer-reviewed study." Yeah, hello, sir. All of the science says that trans people exist. So, what the fuck are you talking about? Oh, you just need to have some kind of prejudice, and this is what you think is most socially acceptable, so it's what you're going with. Again, I'm stealing the idea from Hassan. It's the permissible bigotry. There are some bigotries that we are not allowed to have, and there are some that we are, and it's so that there's still this idea about good people versus bad people. so that no matter which group you're in, if you still have your group of people to hate and fight against, but also you get to hate other people for hating people that you don't hate. So we just get to, so the Islamophobia is like a huge one. Transphobia is a huge one. Homophobia, less so, but still, depending on what circles you're running in. Racism is a thing that, yet again, depending on what circles you're running in, most of the time people get very angry when you call them racist, even when they're being blatantly racist. So, like, that's one that is not as permissible, right? Like that's why dog whistles exist among white supremacists, so that they can say what they're saying without saying what they're saying. Anti-Semitism is a non-permissible bigotry with all the dog whistles as well, right? Which that one is like on the surface non-permissible, but if you actually look at our society, it's fucking filled with the shit, and then it's also weaponized, and things that are not at all anti-Semitic, like not wanting there to be a genocide in Gaza, that's seen as an anti-Semitic thought statement, what have you, when it's Netanyahu is the biggest Nazi we've had in like damn near 100 years. So I don't know what to fucking tell you there. Um, yeah, feminism is concerned with equal rights, and at this point, it's the idea that gender and sexuality are separate. I think comes from like second wave feminism. Like that's when that first started. It might have been third. I don't fucking remember. But it's been a minute. It's been at least 20 years, probably longer, right? That we've really come to the conclusion that like these things, although related, are not the same thing, and so like if we're only fighting for this one group of people, we're going to be eliminating these people and these people, and so really we need to just all be fighting for equal footing, because rights aren't a fucking pie, bro. Like, it's not like if women start getting paid a fair wage that they'll have to start paying men less. They'll have to start paying the CEOs less. And they're supposed to be doing that anyway, because we've had, what, a 24% wage increase since the 70s, and it's like 1,078% or some shit like that for CEOs. Percent. 1,000 of, like, are you... It's the people at the top who are the problem. It's not the feminists. It's not feminism. It's literally the people with all the money who want to keep all the money because the money gives them power and freedom. And they like that. And they like being in charge, and it makes them feel fulfilled, because otherwise they do not feel fulfilled in their lives. Their only sense of purpose is to collect all the gold like a fucking dragon, because they are empty shells of human beings. You have to learn to get your own sense of value from yourself. You have to learn that what other people think about you is none of your fucking business, and if you find out, it doesn't matter. You need to move in this world in the way that you think is right. And I mean really right. Not right in order to get your goal. Like, you need to form morals. And those morals need to be based on reality. They need to be based on the effects of the actions, the effects of your thoughts on yourself. That's where your morality needs to come from. Because if you really take the time to figure out what the fuck you stand for, it is so much easier to present someone who is, confident that if you know who you are, you just are who you are. And if you genuinely get to a point that you understand that not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay. And sometimes it might be a little disappointing, but you really cannot let it wreck your fucking existence. And you have to work through your rejection sensitivity. because you have to really think about the worst case scenario. And the problem is, you worrying about rejection, you're feeling all of the same shit and having all of the same chemical responses as if you actually were rejected. So why not go out and actually try to live your fucking life and interact with other humans, you know? If you go on a date and there's a huge argument over who pays, and it's like, if you don't pay then you're not a man or whatever, or if we don't split this bill then it's not feminist or what, that person isn't the one for you. Thank them for their time, move on with your life. There are a lot of other people. There's like 8 billion people in the world, bro. Like, you know, save up your pennies and move if you've met all the ones where you live. There's other places to go. Get on the internet and talk to people. Like, feminism is great. People weaponize it. People mischaracterize it. People, misunderstand it, often very intentionally, because it's this idea, just like the fight for anyone's rights is always the idea that the goal is to take rights away from someone else. And you do get these radical ass people who think, like that fucking scum shit, talking about like literally like eliminating the idea of men, and then gets to the point of eliminating people entirely. She's like, why even reproduce? Let's just live our lives. And I'm like, so self-eradication of the human race with men first so that women can just live a chill life. And she said that women can like easily train themselves out of their sex drive and the shit. It's such like raving lunacy. And so because that person is cuckoo bananas, that ends up being the representation of what feminism is, as if that none of that shit had anything to do with actual feminism. It was like this whole manifesto on fucking generational trauma is bad, but it is the fault of all of the individual men except the ones that I like who are willing to work for me, and also the women who listen to the men, they're just as bad. But then if we eliminate the women, then, or if we eliminate the men, then the women will fall in line. That it just asinine, like ridiculous jerk off daydream bullshit. Like, I don't know what the fuck. Like, it's a mental jerk off session is what that was. That was just you stroking your own imagination. It was fucking ridiculous. And so I definitely understand, much in the same way with Islam, that the most radical, ridiculous versions and interpretations of the ideology are what get considered the religion of Islam, as if there weren't a quarter of the people on the planet who belong to this religion. Like, you cannot get 100 people in a room together with the same exact ideology, let alone 2 billion of them. No group is a monolith. None. When we're talking about men and women, we're talking about approximately 4 billion people each. And if you can say absolutely anything other than human about, and like, there's nothing. There's literally nothing, because it's like a checklist where if you check off enough things on the list, you are that thing, Think of it as like a healthcare diagnosis, right? There's a list of fucking symptoms, and if you have enough of those symptoms, it's like, oh, well, then you have this particular syndrome, mental, right? Like, that's what the diagnosing criteria is. It's not like there is a one question, like there's always multiple criteria for any distinction. So like, why would man or woman or whatever be any different? But all of those criteria end up overlapping with other criteria, end up overlapping with other, and because everything is a fucking Venn diagram eventually, and it's like we're all just fucking human beings, and we could all just treat each other as human beings, and we could, as a class, get some goddamn class consciousness to understand that there is an upper and a lower class. The middle class is gone, my friends. It doesn't fucking exist. There's an upper class and a lower class, and you are probably in the fucking lower class, and the faster you realize that, and the faster you realize that they're using the same tactics on all of us, all races, all genders, all sexualities, it's all the same shit, just slightly repackaged to have us all arguing with each other. And it's keeping my bread and butter is the fucking incel exit shit, right? Like, that's what I've done most of my shit on. I love my political rants, don't get me wrong. But like, ultimately my goal is to help people to not be fucking miserable, because the system is the thing that's making you miserable. It's making us all miserable, and now it's becoming more apparent. And so I'm hoping that, like, I can be like, see, are you seeing what I'm saying? Like, the idea, and I'm glad it died out quick as fuck in the US, the whole 4B movement, and this idea that women were just going to blow off men entirely as a concept, that is not what we need. We need men involved in this. We need men and women to be working on the same team and realizing that all of this hurts everyone. Because if you're making people have kids that they don't fucking want, it hurts the child. It hurts both parents in one way or another. If you're literally having people die in the process of this, which is happening, that's harmful to the entire family as well, especially if they have other kids already. Like, there's no end to the chaos that is caused by the attempt to control women's bodies in the form of an abortion ban. It's just, like, time and time again, history has tried this, and it just results in death. It's higher death rates. When there is not safe abortion access, there are higher death rates. The thing that reduces abortion access is birth control access, but they want to go after that too, because it's about controlling women's bodies. They want to make women having sex less of an appealing and free act, so that you feel like you have to get married, and you feel like it's all an attempt to reignite fascism in this country. It's working pretty well, unfortunately, and to perpetuate the patriarchy. And it's coming top down, and it's really, really obvious if you don't think that it's some tinfoil hat fucking conspiracy theory. And it's like, I get that it's the opposite of what you've been taught your whole fucking life, but, like, look around. The real red pill is, we need to start working together. We need to stop this fucking gender divide bullshit and understand that we are being fucked over in every system in this fucking country and in most of the world by a very small group of interconnected people. And the only way that we will ever change that is by acknowledging that we all have different versions of the same fucking problems and working together to fix those. And, that's why I say yay feminism. I'm definitely a feminist, because feminism... Ouch, stop! He's trying to get me to get up. Please stop. Ow. That hurt. He got my bone. He was tugging gently, but then he didn't let go. Listen, you need to chill. I'm speaking, sir. I'm almost done. He always has to come make a cameo. He's such a beautiful boy. I ultimately want people to be happy within themselves, because people who are happy within themselves, who do things for their own sake because they think it's the right thing to do, are happy regardless of what other people think, and go out and do good things in the world. And if you're happy and doing good things in the world, well, doesn't that just make you the best kind of person? Why don't we do that? Like, why are we choosing to be unhappy and choosing to not do things that are positive for us or for anyone else? Rotting in your bed all fucking day, doing nothing, interacting with no one isn't helping you. Like, you have to do something. It doesn't have to be anything in particular, but, like, fucking live, you know? If you're on your own, how you feeling? Are you happy with yourself? Do you have a bunch of shit you need to work through? We need to stop blaming the other groups of people fighting against the same bullshit that's harming us. Blaming feminism is blaming another group of people who are being harmed by all the same systems that put all of these fucking expectations and limits on emotions and, like, just ridiculous bullshit on to men, ideas of masculinity and shit. Like, it's the same system. It's the same problem. They're just coming at it from their side, and in the case of feminism, it is now like the whole point is to include everyone. Because if we are fighting together and if we are acknowledging the differences in gender, and we can talk about men's issues, like men should be able to talk about things like abuse. No one needs your mouth, sir. I don't know, man. You tell me. What do we think? If you've gotten this far, please, for the love of God, subscribe. You know that you enjoy hearing me ramble, or you wouldn't still be listening at this point. I do appreciate anyone who has watched this dog and pony show, as it were. You're a dog and a pony, so I think that counts. Yeah. Happy New Year. I hope you all have a fantastic year. I hope that you take this year to improve absolutely anything about yourself, whatever you want. Preferably not something about your body, preferably something about who you actually like are in your little heart and soul and mind, because that's the important part. Your shell's going to change a whole lot. You need to figure out who you are on the inside, yo. But at any rate, I love you. Be safe. Make good choices.